Well, hello, hello. Welcome back to Intentional Living. Hard to believe we are almost through this puppy. We are on session 7, one of my favorite sessions. And for some of you on this session, this will be very intimidating, and for some, it will be very exciting and exhilarating. And the reason that I say that is because some of us have a personality that's naturally more outgoing, and we actually receive energy and we create energy by connecting with other people. And some of us that are on this session have a personality that's actually can be draining. To spend a lot of time engaging with other people can actually drain our energy, and it actually doesn't give us energy. But the bottom line is, John Maxwell says, one is too small a number to make a difference, to achieve greatness, to become truly significant. And so what we want to talk about today is, how do we connect with like-minded people? All of us are connected with other people in some way or another. And some of us are connected with people that we would consider like-minded. And then some of us are connected with our family. Boom, boom. Okay, that was a joke. For some of us, our family members are like-minded people, and in some cases not. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But whether you get energy from connecting with people or whether it actually takes energy away from you, I hope you would agree that great movements generally include more than one person. We can look at that throughout history. Some of the great leaders and teachers that we might know of historically, even no matter how great they were, they didn't work alone. They connected with other people to take their movement and move it forward. And so that's what we want to talk about today. The key is finding the right people, right? Finding the right people. So let's just say that you've made the decision that you want to pursue significance in your life, right? And I will repeat that quote pretty much every session, that John Maxwell says that anyone can become successful, but it takes someone special to become significant. However, he says, once you taste significance, success will never again satisfy. So let's say you've made that decision to pursue a life of significance. There's few things that can derail you quicker than being surrounded by people who are not interested in living a life of significance. Right? It's like being around people who share vastly different goals than yours. Now, I'm not suggesting that you get into an echo chamber, that you get into a vacuum with you and your little buddies, and you guys just, stick together like a little clique and never allow any outside voices in. But what I am saying is that if you want to move your life forward into the direction of significance, you're going to have to find your people, and you're going to have to move forward with your people. So we're going to talk today about identifying with like-minded people. So if you're still here, if you're still showing up for these sessions, then my guess is that you are looking to build a life of significance, that you are looking for that. And so we're going to talk today about the 9 factors that attract people of significance to each other. So if you got to go find your people, you got to build that team, if you will, of like-minded people to move your vision, to move your collective vision and your individual visions forward. Then we want to know, what are the 9 factors that John Maxwell says can help you attract like-minded people? And so the first one he says is the opportunity factor. And so he does say that, most great acts, most significant acts, most often show up in times as a response to an opportunity. So John Maxwell, many, many years ago, when he made the decision to build a life of significance, he sort of wrote out his dream. And he did it on a little 5x7 card. He had them laminated, and he actually handed them out to people that he thought might be interested in the same thing. And he would just hand them the card and say, why don't you take a look at this? And if it's something you're interested in, get back to me. So he was inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his I Have a Dream speech. So John spent many, many months sort of crafting his own vision, if you will. And so I'm going to break it down for you piece by piece. This is in the book, Intentional Living, starting on page 167 if you have the book. But the first one is the opportunity factor. And so this is a little bit longer, but bear with me as I read it to you. He said, history tells us that in every age, there comes a time when leaders must come forth to meet the needs of the hour. Therefore, there is no potential leader who does not have an opportunity to better mankind. Those around him also have the same privilege. And so he shares the story of his Equip organization. I have shared that with you guys in this series, excuse me, if you will, where I've explained to you that John's goal is to equip leaders around the world. It's how we have had the opportunity to impact millions of lives and the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, because we're equipping leaders who are equipping leaders. And so that first trip was to Guatemala, and that was back in 2013. So John reached out to our organization and said, who wants to go with me on this trip? So 200 Maxwell Leadership Certified coaches, speakers, and trainers decided to make that trip to Guatemala, paid their own way, paid all of their expenses, sort of dropped everything, if you will, to make that trip down there. And they trained in 1 week 19,000 leaders in Guatemala. 200 John Maxwell coaches trained 19,000 leaders in Guatemala who have gone on at the time of this book, which is a few years old now, to train over 200,000 leaders in the little country of Guatemala. And so that's what we're talking about here. This is one person who had a dream and still has a dream at 77 years old to change the world by training and equipping leaders, right? So raise your hand if you would agree that around the world, we need better leaders. Like every hand's going to go up. Around the world, we are in desperate need of great leaders. We are in great need of great leaders in the home, in the businesses, in the local communities, in schools, in churches, in state, national. We need great leaders. And that's always been the case. It will always be the case because, as John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So I'm going to ask you guys a lot of questions today, and I want you to just ponder some of these. If you've got something to take notes, you may want to jot some of these down. And then I will also post in the Mighty Networks feed a list of questions that I would encourage you over the coming week to really think about. Because if you've decided to live a life of significance, then you're going to have to find some people that share that goal, share that dream, and you're going to have to go with them, or you're going to have to ask them to come with you. So let's go through some of those. And so the question in the opportunity factor is there an opportunity that you can see out there right now that you could step into or respond to that might help you in your journey for significance? And remember, by significance, I don't mean the pat yourself on the back, look at me, I'm special. I mean significance in that it makes a difference. It makes a difference for others, not just for yourself, okay? So do you see an opportunity right now, maybe within your own business, maybe within a company that you're affiliated with, maybe within your church, maybe within your local community? Do you see an opportunity perhaps that you could actually step into? So just think about that for a moment. Maybe it's an organization you're already a part of, and there's an opportunity for you to lead or become involved under someone else's leadership to support them, because we need both, right? And then the next question is there someone in your life that has invited you into something important? Has someone tapped you on the shoulder and said, I'd love to have you as a part of this, and this thing is significant? Are you missing an opportunity? Somebody's actually already tapped you on the shoulder. Just think about that. Because the reality is what you say yes to is what shapes your life. So, let's get a little real here. What have we been saying yes to lately? Let's talk about in terms of our time. How have we been spending our time? I got to be honest. The last week, I've probably spent more time online than I'm happy about, that I'm proud of. Probably a lot of people have. It's easy to get very distracted right now. There's a lot going on out there. And whenever you might be watching this, if it's 5 years from now, there'll be a lot going on then too. So how are we spending our time? We've talked about this before. Imagine that time is a currency. You get to decide how to spend it. So what have you been saying yes to lately? Is it the opportunity to step up and lead? Is it the opportunity to step up and join someone else who has a significant movement? Or have you been thinking more about yourself or other things? So sometimes it's just taking that small step in the right direction. Small step. It doesn't have to be a big one. So the question I'll leave you with in the opportunity factor is, what opportunity do you see right now to make a difference? And if you can't think of one, that's fine. We're going to keep working through this. But if you can, jot it down. Maybe you need to reach out and connect with someone who's doing that. Okay. Number 2 is the belief factor. The belief factor. And he says in his I Have a Dream, his belief factor says, fortunately, I believe that God has surrounded me with those who will accept the challenge of this hour. Now, John always says, and he says it in the book, that if he is a person of faith, and if you're not, no big deal. You're going to make this your own. But do you believe that you have been gifted with being surrounded with those who will accept the challenges that present themselves? So perhaps if you're in real estate, you're with a brokerage that's actually doing something that makes a difference. Maybe it's in the local community, maybe it's at a larger level. Maybe if you're with a corporation, maybe the work that your company is doing, maybe there's actually some opportunity to make a difference in the lives of others, whether they're the internal customers. Remember, every company has internal customers and external customers. So perhaps there's an opportunity for you to step up within your organization to make a difference. Maybe it's in your church. Maybe it's in your local school, your kids' school. Maybe it's in some charitable aspect of your community. Maybe there's an opportunity there. But do you believe that you have found yourself in an environment where you can find like-minded people? They're there. Maybe you don't know them yet, but do you have faith that those people will come into your awareness? So some questions I would ask you is, do you believe that you have it in your heart to make a difference? And if so, do you believe that others might want to connect with you? Do you have a belief in yourself to be able to make a difference? So here's a great question. If someone that wants to make a difference crosses your path, do you even recognize them? And we're going to talk about how do you build this avatar, if you will, of who those like-minded people are. But do you recognize and do you believe in people enough to connect with them? Do you believe that together you could actually make a difference? I believe that people often live a very small life because they think, well, I'm not fill in the blank, right? I could have done that in the beginning when I started working with Tony Robbins. I could have said, well, I mean, I'll never be Tony Robbins. Why would anybody want to work with me? They can work with Tony. Well, they can't really. Tony takes like 3 clients a year and they pay him $1 million for like 7 or 8 30-minute calls. And then he gets like 30% of the upside of their business. So probably most of us won't be working with Tony directly. But I could have said that when I joined the John Maxwell team 5 or 6 years ago. I could have said, well, gee, I'll never be John Maxwell. So what is it that you're playing too small at that maybe you need to think about, right? It's more change is made by small groups of like-minded people versus sitting back waiting for them they are going to fix it. They're not. I saw a bumper sticker a while back that said, no one's coming. It's up to us. Like, we got to fix this ourselves. We got to fix this ourselves. So do you believe people are coming to help you make a difference? And that's truth. Belief is essential for significance. Because if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe that God might send you the right people or put you in the right circumstances to meet those people, then you probably won't make a difference. You'll give up and you'll sit on the sidelines and wait for somebody else to do it. I don't know about you. I'm not waiting for somebody else. I want to make a difference. All right, number 3 is the possibility factor. The possibility factor. And John wrote, my dream allows me to give up at any moment all that I am in order to receive all that I can become. I'm ready to give up everything I am today to receive what I can become in the future. And so that's a big deal, because if you want to live a life of significance, you're going to have to give up some stuff. Right? You won't be able to sit on the sofa and binge watch Netflix if you want to make a difference. Now, I'm not saying you should never sit on the sofa and binge watch television. That's maybe a good way to turn your brain off for 5 minutes or maybe an hour and a half. But I am saying that you won't be able to sit on the sidelines. You won't be able to lurk in the background of Facebook and make comments about other people's stuff and criticize people you don't even know, waiting for someone else to make a difference. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Standing around the coffee pot, complaining about upper management, that's not going to work. If you're going to live a life of significance, you're going to have to give some things up. And I think we all know that. So this is about trading off. And since there's no significance without sacrifice, we got to be prepared to sacrifice. But here's the good news. When you trade one thing for another, you'll be moving towards a better, more fulfilling way of life. So I would ask you to reflect for a moment. What are some of the things that you've already given up in your life? We've all made trade-offs. Some of us traded, the freedom of being single for the sacrifice of being in a relationship, being married, where we now have to share who we are and everything that we have with someone else. But those of us that are married would probably say that was a trade-off worth making. We now have someone to walk the journey of life with. Some of us made the trade-off of being without children to having children, or coming into a family where we get to have someone else's children. And many of us would say, hopefully all of us who've done that would say that that was a trade-off worth making, to be able to share our lives with someone else who depends on us, that we can influence them and help to raise them to become wonderful citizens of our country who have their own families, right? So there's trade-offs. So here's some of the trade-offs, and this is on page 171 of the book, if you have it, that John recommends people make. Can you trade affirmation for accomplishment? Instead of just affirming yourself or needing to be affirmed by other people, can you go out and actually do something? Can you actually go out and accomplish something? None of us are going to make it if we believe that we should get something just because we're special. That's just not going to work. The world does not reward that. The world rewards people who get off their butt and go make a difference, right? What about trading security for significance? That's a tough one. And especially at the time of this recording, there's a lot of insecurity out there. There's financial insecurity, there's cultural insecurity, there's political insecurity, there's, national safety, things that we have to be worried about. There's a lot of insecurity out there. So it can make us want to clutch something that feels certain because there's a lot of uncertainty. But we have to be willing to trade certainty, trade security for something that's going to actually make a difference, which means we got to get out of our comfort zone. What about trading financial gain for future potential? John Maxwell talks about this. He said, every career move he made was actually a pay cut. But over time, he was able to build even more. He was able to build even more. But that initial trade-off was something fearful. There's a lot of people that are going to be watching these sessions that are in the real estate industry. Many of them probably left a job, a job that had a salary to step into real estate. And so they traded financial gain for future potential. Now, hopefully that's paying off. Hopefully that's paying off. For many, it doesn't, but hopefully for you, it is, or at least has been, and you can tap back into that. But sometimes we got to trade financial gain for future potential. And then what about trading immediate pleasure for personal growth? Right? You have the choice. I made a deal with myself that for every minute that I spend looking at the news, let's call it that. I don't even know if it's news anymore, but looking at that stuff, I got to spend a minute learning something else. So if I'm going to go look at, some headlines or go search something online about what's happening in the world today, I have to spend an equal amount of time learning something. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to spend a lot less looking at the headlines because I love learning. And so that's going to be much more attractive to me. That's a game I'm playing with myself right now. But are you willing to trade immediate pleasure? You might think, well, looking at the news isn't pleasurable, but we're getting something from it. It's feeding something, or we wouldn't keep doing it. Okay, so we got to be willing to trade that. There's the saying that says you can play today and pay tomorrow, or you can pay today and play tomorrow. But either way, you're going to pay. So are you willing to give up, laying around watching TV for learning something new? Now, the next one, trading exploration for focus. If you're still wandering around trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life, you may have to give up some of that wandering and start focusing. I work with people all the time that they've got so many irons in so many pots, it's not even funny. And we got to constantly refocus into what's going to move the ball forward. I mean, if we just talk about business for a moment or your career, it's easy to think, well, I can do this and that and the other. There's a lot of things that you could get involved with, and a lot of people that would love to have your help with something. If you're responsible for generating business opportunities for your business, it's easy to get caught up in all the latest sales tactics and all the latest lead generation tactics. But can you get focused on what really matters? How about trading quantity of life for quality of life? Quality of life. Look, I'm going to be 60 this year. I'm focusing on quality of life, but there's not much quantity left. Look, I'm hoping that I have a good 30 years or so in me, but I don't know. Well, by the way, neither do you, but I would rather have a better quality of life than just more of it. I don't just want more life. Okay. And I don't think you do either. How about trading acceptable for excellent? Good enough sometimes is not good enough. Sometimes we've got to strive for excellence. I think you would agree that people want to do business with companies that deliver on excellence. There are a few things you don't care if they're average. If you're driving through a fast food restaurant, you're going to get an average meal at an average price. That's okay. But I don't think for most of us, we want to do business with organizations and companies that strive for excellence, right? If you're buying homeowners insurance right now, do you just want the cheapest product with just some online chatbot that's all you can talk to? Or do you want, especially if you're in the state of Florida, or do you want to do business and buy homeowners insurance from a company that's going to be there when your roof blows off? And the list is endless, by the way, whether you're buying a high ticket item, whether you're buying a car, whether you're taking a vacation, or whatever it might be, whether you're buying health insurance, you want companies that are striving for excellence, not just acceptable, right? None of us wants an average marriage to an average person, raise some average kids, live in an average home, and live an average life. No one would want that. Too many people are settling for that, however. So let's all step up. And then trading addition for multiplication. This is tough for people who are tapped on the shoulder to step into the leadership conversation, right? Because they feel like, well, I'm adding value to people. I'm adding value to my customers, my internal customers, my external customers. But if you really want to grow, you're going to have to find a way to multiply. And that means you have to step into the leadership role and then begin to build other leaders, right? You're not doing everything yourself. You're building other leaders who go out and multiply the effect that you're having. And then what about trading the first half for the second half? Trading the first half for the second half. It doesn't matter what you've done up until now. Today's the day. Today's the day that you can decide the next part of your life is going to be, used to make a difference, to become significant. So the question is, what are you willing to give up right now to make a difference? So I'm just going to ask you to think about it and jot it down. Is there something right now that you know you need to give up? There probably is. Just write it down. If you're spending too much time doing nothing, that might be an opportunity. If you're spending too much time in the headlines or too much time on Netflix, too much time, contemplating your navel lint, whatever it might be, you may have to give up. You may have to give that up. Maybe you have to give up, not believing in yourself. Maybe you have to give up feeling small. Maybe you have to give up some security to step a little bit into the unknown. Maybe you have to give up some money, right? Maybe you have to be willing to make an investment in yourself. All right. Number 4 is the faith factor. The faith factor. He says, my dream allows me to sense the invisible so that I can do the impossible. Tony says this, that life begins right on the other side of our fear, and that it's this dance between our deepest fear and our greatest desire. That's where the tension is. John Maxwell says pretty much everything worthwhile is uphill. And we don't like climbing uphill. It's there's a lot of fearful. So how are we going to get beyond that fear? If you don't have some fear in terms of your dream, it's probably not big enough, right? It's the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. That's what we all got to be thinking about. What is that goal that is that's so big that it scares us a little? And how can we have faith that if we've been given a desire, I've talked about this before, the word desire breaks down to de and sire, and that means of the Father. So that's the root of that word, desire. And so there's the concept in the word desire that when we have a burning desire, it's put into us by our Creator. And so if you've been given that desire, you will be resourced with the way to achieve it. I mean, that would be a really cruel God to give you a desire in your heart and then, be like, psych, you can't achieve that. That's why most of us, our deepest desires tend to be in alignment with our natural gifts and talents. There's probably not anything that you really have a true deep desire to accomplish that's outside of your ability to do it. Right? It would be weird if you were 5'2" and you really wanted to play in the NBA. That would be weird. That's probably not your deep desire. That might be a preference, might be a dream. Wow, I wish I was 6'2" and then I could play in the NBA. Maybe I could actually play basketball. But most of us are given a desire that we are actually equipped to fulfill. We need to meet the right people. We need to learn the right skills. We need to believe the right beliefs. But most of us really want to do something that's right in alignment with what we've already been given. So where's your faith? Where is your faith? John says that the faith factor encourages me to start walking and believe that the resources will come to me as I walk. So if you've been waiting to gather up all of your resources before you take that first step, I would encourage you to jump and build your parachute on the way down. That's what we have to be able to do sometimes. He quotes Philip Yancey in the book, and he says, Philip Yancey says, we're concerned with how things turn out, God seems more concerned with how we turn out, right? There's a great book. People in the real estate world have most likely heard of it. It's called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And in that, the cover of the book, it says it's not about the money, it's about who you become. And so I think that's the case in any endeavor. It's not about the money. It's who are we becoming in the process of chasing our dreams. So the question in the faith factor, is your faith greater than your fear? Is your faith greater than your fear? If it's not, by the way, you might want to take a step back and really ask yourself, has there been a time in my life where I had a dream to achieve something and things actually worked out? Now, I'm not saying it just showed up magically, but you took the step forward and the resources showed up and then you achieved or accomplished that thing. If so, then maybe you just need to remember that part of what made that happen is that you had the faith that it would. And even if you didn't at the time, you could look back in retrospect and see, wow, maybe I should have some faith in this dream. All right, number 5 is the challenge factor. The dream is bigger than all my abilities and acquaintances. So are you willing to be challenged? Transformational leaders influence people to think, speak, and act in such a way that it does make a positive impact in their life and the lives of others. So are you challenged to become significant? Or is that a challenge, for you? It is for me. I'm not saying I love that all the time, but I do feel challenged to make a difference. My word, it seems to be showing up for me for the last few years is impact. I want to have an impact on people. I know as a coach that I cannot create success in any of my clients. I can't do it. They have to do it. They have to pick up the weight. And so it's up to them whether or not they actually want to accept that challenge and create a life of significance, despite what's happening, in their industry or in their world or in their family or wherever. Ultimately, they're going to have to make the decision to take the actions. So my goal is to have enough of an impact on them that they're inspired to go take those actions. And so that's the challenge. It's frustrating sometimes, especially when I have someone that I know, like I said this last week, there's a 10 on their forehead. I see it. I see them as a 10, but they're living as a 6. It's frustrating. And so I'll try all sorts of things. I'll poke and prod and drag and challenge and cheer them and do anything I can think of to have an impact. Now, not everybody's ready. I get that. But I want to do what I can to help them see in themselves what I see in them. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that all of us deep down inside want someone who will inspire us to be what we know we can be. And I think that's true. I don't know very many people who really truly believe that they're not worth it, that they're unworthy, that they're incapable, and that they're just destined to be a nobody. I don't really know those people. And I think it's because I've, tried to be very careful in curating my circle of acquaintances and friends. And, even when I meet people and I can, I've been at this for a long time. So I can tell people who believe that they're victims and they really believe that they don't have any responsibility to do anything to make their life better. I meet those people and I quickly move away from them. They're just not going to be in my circle. So I know there are people out there, but I tend to not meet them. Most of the people I know, they really do believe that they're capable of more. Many of them believe that they're called to more. And so that's the question. Are you ready to be challenged to be more? You might have to learn some new skills. You might have to learn some new strategies. You definitely got to learn some new beliefs. And you got to unlearn a lot of garbage. But if you really believe that you're meant for more, then you have to believe that you'll be resourced with more, and then you'll be given the opportunity for more. But you got to be wide open to this, right? All right, number 6 is the attitude factor. The attitude factor. And John says, my dream allows me to continue when discouraged. For where there is no faith in the future, there is no power in the presence. There is no power in the presence. So, you know, when you stop loving people, you stop serving people. So if you're feeling a little disillusioned by people, you got to meet some new people, right? You got to meet some new people. You got to get out. You got to get out of the house. You got to go meet some new people. You know, we don't always choose what happens to us, but we always choose how to respond to that, right? Viktor Frankl says there's a space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies our ability to choose that response. And therein lies our freedom and our growth. So no matter what it is, there's a space. Now, if your car is on fire and your child is trapped under the car, you don't really need to think very much about that. You're going to be given superhuman strength. People can pick up cars off of children. It's happened in the past. That's a reaction. But let's face it, that is a stress response. And we can't live like that. I'm talking about life. Life shows up. The market changes. Your industry changes. The people around you change. Lots of things change. The government changes. The economy changes. Culture changes. There's a space between stimulus and response. That's where we get to choose. That's where we get to choose. So how about your attitude? What is your attitude like? Just own it, by the way, if it's crappy right now. You're going to meet in the next few months, probably a lot of people with crappy attitudes. Crappy attitudes. It's going to be out there. You may have to put some earmuffs on or some blinders on, but you will get to choose. My husband and I talked about this weekend. And it's like, we're not going to win people over by yelling at them. We're not going to win people over by ignoring them. We've got to go out with love. We've got to go out with compassion. We've got to go out with that sense of unity, which is what I think everybody would agree that we need, no matter what your political beliefs are. We're one country. You need to come together more than ever, right? So what's your attitude like? Right now, whether we're talking about what's going on in the world, or we're talking about your business or your career or your family or your community or your neighborhood, whatever it is, right now, is your attitude an asset or a liability? Is your attitude an asset or a liability? Now, I want you to think about your dream, your goals, this move towards a life of significance. Think about your attitude about your dreams. Is it an asset or a liability? Are you feeling like, I don't know the right people, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, no one's listening to me, I can't find my people, whatever it is. If you're thinking that, then your attitude is a liability. If you're thinking about how you're going to build this community, build this team, find the people to move forward with, then your attitude is an asset. So that is the attitude factor. Number 7 is the winning factor. The winning factor. And he says, my dream allows me to attract winners because big dreams draw big people. So if you've got a big dream, then you need to find the people that want to jump in and join you. Or perhaps you're going to find someone else who has a big dream similar to yours, and you're going to join them. It works both ways, by the way. So this is about finding people who want to jump in the deep end over their head and learn to swim. Right? John talks about this in the book. He says, most dreams come about one size too big, and that's so that we can grow into them. If you had kids, or when you were a kid, you know, did your parents buy your shoes one size too big? Because they knew you were still growing and that you'd grow into your shoes or your pants or your jacket or whatever it might be. And he says that most of us have a dream that's about one size too big. And that's because we're being called to grow into that dream. So the question is, in the winning factor is, are you connecting with winners to achieve significance? Maybe there are people that are a step ahead of you. that can help you grow into your dream. But think about the people in your inner circle. Let's just be real. Are they winners or are they losers? We need to be surrounding ourselves with winners. I'm not talking about people who get trophies and accolades and awards and all of that, because that's truly not necessarily an indication of whether or not they're a winner. Right? I work with a lot of people in the real estate industry, and there's a lot of people out there sell a lot of real estate. They're not winners. They work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They have no quality of life. I don't think that's a winner. But we want to be attracting and attracted to people who are doing big things. Number 8 is the promise factor. My dream allows me to see myself and my people in the future. Our dream is the promise of what we shall one day become, right? That's the promise factor. So John says in the book, he says, I made the same mistake most people make about dreams. I thought, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Anybody ever heard that or even said it? But that's not always true, he said. A dream requires a partner, and that partner is named commitment. That partner's named commitment. We probably all remember a movie that was popular in the mid-2000s called The Secret. The Secret. And in that movie, it said the secret is, you know, you just believe something enough and you put enough energy and, you know, thought towards it, you can achieve that thing. And so, you know, you could sit on your sofa and, you know, you could pretend like you were shifting gears in your Maserati, and then poof, it shows up in your driveway. Well, it doesn't work that way. We have to make a commitment to our dream, and then we have to go out and take the steps necessary to achieve it. Now, truthfully, I do believe that if you don't believe you can achieve something, you're very unlikely going to. But I also understand that believing it is not enough. You have to commit yourself to it. Almost like, remember when we were kids, blood brothers, and you'd prick your finger and you'd stick it together with the other kid. And it's like, we're bonded for life. Like, we are blood brothers or blood sisters. I don't think kids do that anymore. At least I hope they don't, but we did it. And that meant this is it. We're BFFs. So you and your dream got to make that level of commitment, right? In order to achieve your goals, you got to make a promise. So the question is, have you committed to a path with great promise for you and others? Have you truly committed? Because living intentionally is the opposite of living aspirationally. Aspirational living says, one of these days, maybe, I wish, I hope, I have a dream, whatever. But intentional living says, I have a dream and I promise I'm making a commitment to that dream. It's too big for me to do on my own. I got to find some people to do it with, or I've got to find some people to do it with me. But I'm committed to it. I made a promise. And the last one, number 9, is the invitation factor. The invitation factor. John wrote, yes, I have a dream. It is greater than any of my gifts. It's as large as the world, but it begins with one. Won't you join me? So he says that who you connect with matters most. Who you connect with matters most. So think about the people that you're connected with currently. Is there anyone there that is waiting on your invitation? And if the answer is no, then you got to take that next step and be willing to go out and find them. So the question is, are you ready to start inviting others to join you in living a life that matters? Are you ready? Are you ready to do that? And so he tells the story in the book of a man named Zach Fike. And Zach Fike was an officer in the Army National Guard, and he collected antiques. And he said that his mother one year bought him a Purple Heart that she had found in an antique store. She bought it for him to add to his collection of antiques. And when he got that medal and he saw the name engraved on it, it really saddened him, because he thought about the family of this gentleman that had earned this Purple Heart. And where were they? And how did this Purple Heart end up in an antique store? So he made his He made it his mission to find this person's family. The man's name was Corrado Piccoli. And this person had relatives who were in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. And so he said, I made it my mission to find this person's family. And so he gets deployed to Afghanistan. He gets back and he starts hunting down this family. And when he found them, what he learned was that this family had drifted apart and hadn't been in contact for years. And it was this Purple Heart, the return of the Purple Heart to the family, that actually brought them back together again. And so it became his mission. And so what he does now is he goes out and finds Purple Hearts all over the country that have ended up in antique stores and junk shops and everything else. And he makes it his mission to reunite that Purple Heart with the family of the veteran. And so his organization is called Purple Hearts Reunited. Now, at the time of the writing of this book, apparently he had returned over 200 Purple Hearts. So he makes it a big production and a ceremony, and he does everything in his power to reunite those Purple Hearts with the families, and oftentimes it results in families being reunited. So that's one person that through an opportunity got a big dream. And in fact, apparently when he was deployed, he was injured. And so he himself received a Purple Heart. What an irony. But that made it even all that more important to him to reunite veterans and veterans' families with the Purple Heart. So you never know what is going to show up as an opportunity in your life to make a difference and what that might look like. It may not be something huge. It may be something like Zach Fike, who at this point has returned over 200 Purple Hearts to their families. What is the opportunity? We go back to the first factor, and that was the opportunity factor. Okay, so movements start through all sorts of things. And so I want to leave you with some questions, because I want you to really be thinking about this, finding other people, connecting with like-minded people. And so, you know, this is, we've already talked about finding your purpose. We've talked about discovering your gifts. We've talked about identifying your sweet spot. And now, if you really want to take off towards a life of significance, you got to connect with like-minded people. So I started off talking about different behavioral styles, different personalities. Some prefer to work alone, some get energy working with others. So just a question for you is, do you prefer to get things done working on your own, or do you prefer to work with a team of people? And I want you to think about that. I'll tell you my experience. I prefer to work alone. I love collaborating with my clients. I love, you know, that's usually one-on-one, or maybe a team, you know, if you will, me and a team, but that still feels like just us. It feels like such a close group. When it comes to collaborating with a larger group, that's not my first go-to. So if I want to make a difference, I got to be willing to move beyond that. So what is it for you? Do you prefer to work alone or work with a team of people? Think about it. And so if you do prefer to work alone, how have you tried to deal with that in the past? I find for myself, if I'm going to work with a group, I don't want to be in the leadership position of that group. And the reason is because I know how easy that is for me to take over. And that's not we. That's just me and some followers. So I force myself, if I'm working with a team, to be in a support role, because that's something I have to learn how to do. So how have you dealt with what your side of that is? If you prefer to work with a team, do you always stay in the background? Are you willing to step into more of a leadership role? If you prefer to work alone, would you be willing to work with a team? We got to really think about how we're going to make the changes necessary to be able to connect with like-minded people in some way to move our dream forward. Another question is, do you think close family and friends are automatically qualified as like-minded for you? Hey, look, maybe you're in a family full of people that really they want to grow, they want to make a difference, they have a positive attitude. And if that's you, congratulations. It ain't me. It's not me. Okay. If it's you, hallelujah. Get on your knees and say a prayer of thanks. If it's not, maybe you got to rethink. I'm not saying you divorce your family. I am saying that you may have to go out and intentionally connect with other truly like-minded people. I'm not saying give up on your family. You know, my kids are raising their own families. They're not interested in changing the world right now. They're interested in changing their family, which is wonderful, but they're probably not going to join me on my journey to significance. I've tried, right? So think about that in your situation. And then, here's a really important question. How would you describe someone that you would consider like-minded? What is that for you? Have you really thought about yourself? What is what's the energy that you're putting out there? What is your vision? What are the qualities and characteristics of you that you're looking to identify in others so that you guys can connect? What is like-minded? That phrase has been tossed about so frequently that it's lost its meaning, I think. Connect with other like-minded individuals. What does that actually mean? Does anybody have a list of what's on their mind so we can see if we truly are like-minded? I work with a lot of people who are self-employed. They have a small business or a team, something where they're kind of in charge. And so they're in competition with other teams. So that doesn't mean they're like-minded. They may be success-driven, but they may not be significance-driven. There's a large coaching organization that is part of an organization that I'm part of. And I don't consider myself to be like-minded with them. I see a big push for more money, more sales, more awards, more accolades, more, let's join our club. We get the matching t-shirt, we're the cool kids. And I'm not saying that's across the board. I'm sure there's a lot of great coaches in this organization that really do care. But the ones that I've met or, have had interaction with, it just felt like we weren't like-minded. Because my definition of success is not more. Unless it's more fulfillment, unless it's more time off, unless it's more time exploring, growth, unless it's more time with the people I care about, unless it's more money in the bank for tomorrow. If it's that, okay, we can have a conversation. But if it's just more so I can pat myself on the back and show you all of my trophies, sorry, that's not like-minded for me. So we got to find those people. Part of the reason I joined the John Maxwell team is because when I go to our IMC and when I'm on our Zoom calls, week after week, those people are like-minded. They want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference with people who make a difference at a time who makes a difference. That's like-minded for me. That's like-minded. So what is it for you? How would you describe someone who is like-minded with you? Okay. And then do you think those people are easy to find or are they hard to find? If you don't know how to find them, let's talk. Let's figure it out together. Where are they? Where are they? So let me ask you this question. What do you think you need to do right now? Recruit a team to help you move your vision of significance forward, or find a team that's already going that way and joining them? What do you think is more important? For you to build your own team of people striving for significance? It could be a mastermind group that you start. It could be, just a group of people that you're going to lead in conversation. It could be a cause that you want to support and you want to gather some people together to pursue that. Or do you want to find a team that's already in place and join that team? Maybe something that you want to have an impact around. Maybe there's already a team of people doing that and you just need to join them. But not just to stand in the background, to join and have a voice, to take a positive action. I don't know which one it is. Which is it for you? Start your own or join one that's already in existence? Just think about it, because then we got to find them. We got to find those people. If it's not starting your own, well, if it's starting your own, you got to find those people. But if it's joining a team that's already doing it, we got to find a way to join that team. And then what are the obstacles that might currently be in your way? What are the obstacles that might be in the way of you finding or joining? I'm sorry, finding the people or joining the team? What's currently in the way? You know, maybe you say, I don't know where to start. Maybe you say, I haven't really clearly defined what significance is for me. Maybe you say, I'm not really sure that I am able to achieve my dream of significance. Whatever it is, what's that obstacle? Because once you define it, you can start working towards the resolution. Awareness, choice is a function of awareness. So you can't make the right choices. You can't take the right actions until you've actually become aware of what the obstacles are. Choice is a function of awareness. All right, so you got some big homework this week, because my challenge for you this week is going to be to connect with 3 like-minded people. And I don't care if it's for a cup of coffee and a conversation, or a phone call, or a brainstorming session, whatever it might be. Connect with 3 like-minded people. Now, you may connect with 5 or 6 people and realize that half of them are not like-minded. So you're going to have to keep connecting until you find 3 people that you think are like-minded. Remember, by like-minded, I don't mean they are clones of you, but they're interested in that same level of significance that you are. And if you go through those 9 factors, they share some of those things. They've made a commitment. They have faith, right? They have a belief in themselves, or they believe it can be done if they connect with like-minded people. So to connect with 3 like-minded people and just have a conversation, you know, what are you thinking about? What are you talking about? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What are you learning? Right? What are your dreams for the future? What kind of an impact do you want to have? Those are the conversations I'm going to challenge you to have this week. And I'm doing this homework too, by the way. I'm doing this homework too, because of my ability and preference to work alone or one-on-one, I got to go out of my comfort zone to go find some people to collaborate with. I got a few in my mind that I'm going to connect with this week. So I'm going to really challenge you to do the same. All right, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. So I'll open the lines for a minute or so here.